Welcome to this Phi Beta Mu Legacy Project interview. It is my pleasure to introduce you to my longtime friend and member of the Phi Beta Mu Hall of Fame, Dr. Rusty Logan. Rusty, welcome.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate you asking me to do this. It's a very
Certainly.
big honor to be
Yes,
asked to be one of the people on this project. So thank you.
yes. Well, of course, I've heard your bands in the past, during those days at Auburn High School, but let's go way back. Let's go back to what got you in music to start with as a youngster?
Uh, Sixth grade, Truman Welch comes by elementary school. Hey, we're going to have a band, or we're going to start a band um, here at your elementary school. That's probably only about the first or second year that they had done a band there. Beginning band. We lived in Wallsboro, in a little community up outside of Wetumpka, and he was the band director at Wetumpka High School at the time. And so they had a band down at the elementary schools down in Wetumpka, and we were just a little country elementary school, so they started a band up there. And that was great. My sister had been in the band for a year or so, and so that I knew a little bit about it. And then it comes to the time to pick the instruments, and probably that was a long time ago, and it's probably like it is now. Most everybody wanted to play saxophone, and that's sort of what I wanted to play. And Mr. Welch said, "No, I think you're going to be a trombone player." And so I wound up playing trombone and have never regretted it since that first day. And we started a little band in the sixth grade, a little beginner band in the sixth grade. And then when we went to the junior high school, we had to change and go to Wetumpka. And so stayed in band throughout that, and just really about the only thing I could do. I played some sports, wasn't very good at any of the sports or anything like that, but it gave me something to do. And my sister followed along, and I mean, she was in front of me, and my brother started 2 years after I was. My brother is in the band, so we all became members of the Elmore County band at that time.
Yeah.
The band that was split between Wetumpka High School and Elmore County High School in Eclectic. And my mother just we didn't know this at the time. Well, we may have known it, but we had forgotten it. She was in Mr. Welch's very original band in Wetumpka High School.
Wow,
When he
very
first
first one.
Wetumpka High School, she was not an instrumentalist. She was a majorette, and she didn't play an instrument at all. And so that was kind of cool that my mom was. We found out later on that my mom was in Mr. Welch's original band there at Wetumpka High School. But just did the band thing all the way through junior high school and high school. And, great band directors, of course. Mr. Welch was there. Ed Jones was the assistant band director almost my entire time.
Yeah.
And
Imagine having those two together.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And it was really a weird situation, because a lot of people don't even know how the band was set up. It was, like I said earlier, it was set up Wetumpka High School and Elmore County High School, way back in the 40s when they started the band, didn't have enough students to have a band of their own.
Mm-hmm.
So they combined the two schools, and on Mondays and Wednesdays, during part of the year, and then on Wednesdays and Fridays the rest of the time, we would travel to one or the other school after school and have band rehearsal. So like during football season on Wednesday afternoons, if we had a football game, a home football game in Wetumpka, we would go over to Eclectic High School and rehearse together. And then the Eclectic students would come over on Friday, wherever the game was, and we would rehearse Friday after school and then do the game that night. And so it was really kind of cool, the way that worked, and the type of band that it was. It's a tribute to Mr. Welch and Mr. Jones. to have the quality of band that they did. That was the first band. I was not in the band. My sister was in the band, but that was the first Alabama band to ever play at Midwest in 1966.
Absolutely.
I believe is the year that was in 1966 when they played at
Okay.
Midwest.
Yeah.
And
And from what I've heard, if the story is true, of course, you apply to play at Midwest, except for Truman Welch, who was asked to play at Midwest. So that's the story
right.
I've heard. And yeah, just incredible program. So now, at what point did you decide I want to be a band director?
Probably about the 10th grade, just sitting in class. And it's like all of us that wanted to become a band director, sitting in the class and watching to seeing what they did and just enjoying what they did and knowing that music was something that meant so much to me personally, and then wanting to continue that and seeing the teaching thing really struck me strongly. And
Mhm.
and again, it was one of those things where in high school I was in the band room every chance I got to be in the band room. you know you'd come in and you would be like a little assistant band directors at times with they'd bring in the junior high kids, and he would send out the trombone section and Rusty work with these kids a little bit, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And just so it really, like I said, I'll tell everybody it was 10th grade. I'm going to do this.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's amazing the types of things that they would do, to kind of instill that into us. You could see their dedication, their leadership, their love for the music, and their love for hoping that we enjoyed music as much as they did. And I just fell in love with that type of thought process.
Amazing. Yeah. And there's so many people that have come out of that program, that have gone on to be
Right.
very fine band directors. So, graduated from high school and then off to
Auburn
Auburn
University.
University.
Came over to Auburn. Uh, Bill Walls was the director of bands when I got here. Bodie Hinton had been the director of bands, and
Mhm.
then Bodie moved up to being the department chairman, and Bill had come over and recruited. I mean, that's when they would go out and come to the band rehearsals and that kind of thing, and just recruit us. And my father had gone to school at Auburn, and so we were Auburn fans. So
Mhm.
why wouldn't I go to Auburn? And
Yeah.
so went to Auburn, undergraduate in music education. Did all the normal undergraduate stuff, played in all the different ensembles, and did all the things. Wasn't a great music student. Um, wasn't a great student totally, but I probably went we were on quarter systems at that time. I know I went one extra quarter that I probably shouldn't have gone to, but I did. And but again, it's just learning what teaching was all about. The first time I was in a concert band rehearsal, I had never seen tenor clef, and I didn't know what it was. And so, I was playing all the wrong notes, and the trombone player, who I can't even remember who it was now, kind of nudged me and said, "Hey, it's in tenor clef." And I said, "It's in what?" He said, "It's in
Right.
tenor clef."
Yeah.
And so he very
You thought he
quickly,
made that one up or
that's
something.
right, that's right. And he very quickly kind of explained the wrong way to read it, but it made sense. He said, just read everything up a fifth. So I was transposing everything. I wasn't,
Oh, okay.
I didn't learn it. I did not learn it as a clef
Yeah.
when I first learned it. And so when I got into the lessons with Bill Wallace, he was a trombone instructor too. And I was reading some stuff, and he's going, "Well, how are you doing this?" I explained it to him, and he said, "No, you got to learn it just as a clef, just a
Yeah.
completely clef, like you're learning
Just like
treble
you
clef."
learn treble or bass. Yeah.
That's right. Just
Kind
learn
of
another.
click in your head.
And I say, well, that's what I want to tell. I don't want somebody else to come up and the first time they've seen tenor clef is, so, whenever I'm teaching, I'm going to at least expose the trombone players to something that's got tenor clef in it. So when they get to college, they won't be embarrassed like I was. And, but went to Auburn undergraduate music ed, like I said, graduated from there. And I taught for one year in a really small private school in Georgia, right north of Macon. It was Forsyth Academy, and great first job. It was that they'd only had a band for 3 years before I got there, and the person who was doing the band, who had started the band, was actually a math teacher that had been in band. And so she had started a little band, and good kids, they had a football team. I mean, they were marching in the 7th grade. They weren't marching. They were going out on the football field and standing there and playing something and that kind of thing. So I got there and we did a little show where they actually moved on the football field, and it was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and they were so excited. And that right there told me that, yeah, this is a neat job. It was one of those first jobs that, back then, that was in the late 70s or mid 70s, 76. I think I got paid, my actual pay was $5,000 for the year. That's what teachers were getting paid back then.
Yeah.
And I was teaching 2 or 3 little band classes. And then I was teaching 2 periods of 6th grade social studies.
Okay.
And so
you do what you got to do.
That's right. and that was a great learning experience too, and then Dr. Wallace called me and said, hey, you want to come back to school and be a graduate assistant? And I said, be a what? And he said, a graduate assistant. We're going to add a graduate assistant here, and you'll just be working with the band and doing whatever we need you to do and that kind of stuff and everything. So I went back and worked on my master's degree, and I was the very first music department graduate assistant at Auburn University.
Wow.
And so I was went back and did that. As my master's degree was actually in trombone performance. I didn't go back in education. I went back in trombone performance because I thought I could play well enough to perform for a living. And since then, I found out that I don't.
No, it doesn't work that way, does it?
No.
Not for most of us.
No. But it was a great experience. I really enjoyed doing it. I learned a lot because again, being the graduate assistant, I was working with Bill, was the director of bands, and Johnny Vinson was the assistant director of bands at the time. And so just being around those 2 guys all day, every day, just learned so much from them. Got really interested in arranging for marching band. My year there, I did 3 arrangements for the university marching band, and that got me sort of along that path. This is what I wanted. Right. I wanted to really do this a lot. And so when I finished my master's, I went straight into the doctorate after the master's, and I went to Ole Miss for that. And I got it. My doctorate's actually in music theory because of the arranging interest. I wanted to become better at arranging. Johnny had gone off to Ole Miss and got his doctorate while I was in undergraduate school. And when he came back, and we got to be really pretty close friends during the year that I was working on my master's. And he had written his dissertation or papers. We don't call it, we have a Doctor of Arts degree, not a PhD, but he had written his essay on, it was actually a book. It was the DA is a teaching doctorate. And so his dissertation was an arranging book, how to arrange. And for marching band. And so we use that as a basis of what my paper wound up being. But he came back and we got to be close friends. And then he said, look, you ought to go, if you're really interested in this, you ought to go to Ole Miss and study with Andrew Fox, who was the theory teacher at that time. Great just down home theory teacher. He taught theory the way I think everybody should teach theory. He taught it the way you could understand it. And
Yeah.
and so and there is a way to teach it that you can understand theory. But so I went there for undergrad. I mean, for my doctorate degree, I was a graduate assistant with the band program there. Luther Snavely was the band director at that time, and great guy. And I did arrange for the marching band. That was one of my duties, was to arrange for the marching band while I was there. And then, we did everything else that a grad assistant would do. We always joked that there were 2 grad assistants each year I was there, and we always joked that we were hired from the neck down, because we had to move chairs and go line the field off and do all that stuff that all the grad assistants do. And I spent three great years there. I just loved being at Oxford. It was a really, really good experience and good teachers. Met a lot of close friends that I still have now and everything. So that was great. The very first night we were there, we were having dinner with Dr. Snavely and his wife, my wife Betsy, and I were, and we were having dinner, and Dr. Snavely said, "How do you like Texas?" And we said, "We've never been to Texas. What are you talking about?" He said, "You will be." And so,
okay.
Dr. Snavely was one of the big time Texas band directors before he got the job at Ole Miss. And so, as my time went along, it started getting time to think about getting a job when I finished my doctorate. And he recommended me for a job in Victoria, Texas, as an assistant band director's job. One of the guys who had been, before I got to Ole Miss, had been a graduate assistant, had been to Victoria and been the assistant, and he was moving on to another school in Texas, and so that job was coming open. So he told me to check into this job, and so I called the band director at that time, talked to him, and he said, "Yeah, Luther Snavely had already talked to me about you. We're interested in talking to you in more depth. Can you come down?" And so, yeah, sure. So we drove down to Victoria, Texas from Oxford, Mississippi. Didn't think we'd ever get there. And we finally got to Houston, and it said Victoria 2 hours away. And we said, "Really? That's great," because it'd been like 7 or 8 hours already. But it was not one of those things where it just happened to be the best place I could have gone. The head band director at Victoria, Texas, had been, well, at that time, was Fred Junkin, who is the father of Jerry Junkin. And so it was an amazing opportunity to be his assistant. I got down there, and when I walked in, Fred said, "Hey, I will be at the rehearsals, but the marching band is yours." And so I did everything with the marching band. And every year that we were down there, we would meet up with the Alice High School band, which had Bryce Taylor was the band director there. And we would do a combined show for a Houston Oilers game. And so I had to write the music and the drill for a combined band. So again, just great experiences that I got at Victoria, and then just sitting in a rehearsal and watching Fred rehearse a band. Just amazing, having Truman Welch as my high school band director, and then Bill Walls, and being around Bodie Hinton and Johnny Vincent in college, and then going to Luther Snavely and Ole Miss, and then going to Victoria, Texas, where Fred was the band director. Just amazing learning experiences. And so I was the assistant director there for 4 years, and Fred retired. And he said, "Apply for the head job." And I did, and I luckily I got the head band director job there at Victoria, and so I stayed there for 4 more years. So I was in Victoria for 8 total years. And then back in those days, this was the late '80s. In the Instrumentalist magazine, they used to list job announcements in the Instrumentalist magazine. I had a little section in there. And I was reading the Instrumentalist magazine one day, and I noticed that the Auburn High School job here in Alabama had come open. And I instantly got on the phone and called Johnny Vincent long distance, because this was way before cell phones. and said, "Hey, look,
Yeah.
I saw that the Auburn High School job is open. What's wrong with, is Tommy retiring?" Tommy Goff had
Oh,
been band
yeah.
director
Yeah.
for 33 years.
Yeah.
And I said, "Is Tommy retiring?" He said, "No, he had a mild stroke in school. And yes, he's retiring because the doctor told him to retire tomorrow because it was all job related stress."
Mm-hmm.
And so I applied for the job, never thinking that I would even be thought about it, because I lived in Texas for 8 years and I knew what the Auburn High job was like. And I wasn't that type of band director. I mean, I wasn't that quality of a band director. I just knew I wasn't. And so I get a phone call from the principal from Auburn High School and said, "Hey, you applied for the job. We're interested in talking to you about it. Would you mind talking to us?" And I said, "No, that's fine." And he said, "Me and the principal and a couple of band parent officers want to come out there and talk to you." And I said, "You want to come out
You
here?"
want to come to Texas? Yeah.
Yeah. I was
They
expecting to
really
get on,
wanted to talk to you then, didn't
yeah,
they?
I was expecting to get on the plane the next week,
Yeah.
and fly back to Auburn. And he said, "Yeah, we want to come out. We've never been to Texas. We want to come out to Texas." So they came out and spent 3 days and came every rehearsal all day long, spent 3 full days with me, had dinner with us at night and that kind of stuff and everything. And they said at the end, and they said, "Well, we kind of like what we see. We'd like for you to come back and meet the kids and talk to the superintendent. And because of, we know what we want, but we also, the superintendent knows what he wants." And the superintendent at that time was Dr. Ed Richardson. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, sure,
Mhm.
sure. Let me get a, get a plane, um, reservation for a plane, and we'll figure out the days and all that kind of stuff and everything." And they said, "Okay, just let us know." And so I did, and I called them and said, "I'm coming." And they said, "Well, look, save all your receipts and everything. We're paying your way." And I'd never heard of a high school band director interviewing for a job where the school system paid for
Oh,
their.
I think that's a first.
And so I was excited about that because, I thought maybe I had a chance, but we'll see after I get out there. And so I fly to Auburn uh, and spend 2 days here going to the rehearsals and working with the band. Stood up in front of the band during all the different rehearsals during the day. Met with Dr. Richardson. Met with the band parents. The full band parent organization and kind of thing. And I get ready to fly back the next morning, and that evening, Dr. Richardson calls me and he says, "Hey, we would like for you to be the band director, and it will pay this amount, this much." And that was the last night that I was here, and so I was going to be with Johnny Vincent that night anyway. He was rehearsing the pit band for the theater at Auburn University. I was going to go and watch the rehearsal for that, just kill some time. And so the theater at that time had a payphone in it. And so I used the payphone to call Betsy back in Texas and say, "Hey, look, they've offered me the job. What do you think? You're not going to have a job yet." And she said, "Hey, it's Auburn. We know what it's like. We both went to school there. We both want to eventually get back to there probably." She said, "Take it. I'll find something to do." So they hired me. I started in 1989, and I was the band director there for 25 years. And so Auburn is just a special place. You know, between me and Tommy Goff, they had 2 band directors in 57 years.
Yeah.
So it's a great place, very very well supported. I mean, you
Yeah,
always
very
want more
much so, yeah.
financial support than you get,
Mhm.
but it's a very artsy town because the university's here and they understand the importance of the arts. And so the school district did that too. And Betsy wound up getting a job in Opelika for the first 4 years. I think she worked in Opelika, and then she moved over to Auburn Junior High School, was a middle school art teacher for 34 total years. So
Yeah.
so
Great
it was
situation.
really good. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was good. So every place along the way, there was really important people that I worked with or studied with or something like that that helped me along my way. And
Yeah.
I still don't feel like that I'm the quality of band director that probably should have gotten the Auburn High job,
Oh, well,
but we did okay. But we
yes,
did okay.
yeah, you did much better than okay. Now, what was it like following a legend? I mean, Tommy
Yeah,
Goff definitely was. Um, how did you handle it, and how would you advise other people who are following someone who's strong and well loved, and now now you're the guy?
yeah. Luckily, it was. I mean, luckily for me, not for Tommy. He had to retire. He did not want to retire. He would not have retired if it hadn't been for his health problems. Um, I came in and I knew Tommy beforehand because when I was in school at Auburn, Tommy did the university jazz band, and we would
Mhm.
all go over to Auburn High School. And we'd rehearse at Auburn High School, so I knew him. I knew about the Auburn High band before that. I had many friends that had gone through the Auburn High School band that had been in school with me at Auburn. Um, Tommy could have destroyed me, of course, and we all know those type of people that
Oh, yeah.
could destroy you. Um, to my knowledge, he never said a negative word about anything that I did. Never. He certainly never said anything to me. He didn't come in and say, "Hey, you need to do it this way. You need to do it this way." He let it be my program, and I knew enough not to change stuff right away,
Okay.
or a lot of stuff. Luckily, I had an assistant that had been Tommy's assistant that I could lean on and say, "Hey,
Mhm.
how do you sign up for buses?" Which is a really an important thing to do.
Yeah.
you know, how do you do this? What type of trips do you take? And
Right.
so
Yeah.
forth. All the things I could lean on. And his name was Everett Johnson,
Mhm.
and
Know him
Everett was
very well. Yeah.
for me for about 10 years, I guess, maybe longer than that. He was the assistant. For me, maybe longer. I mean, I don't know how long he was as Tommy's assistant, but so that was a good thing. I could lean on him, and I wasn't going to change anything. I just came in and waved my arms. That's the only difference that there was, I think, for those first couple of years. And you could tell that the kids weren't my kids, especially the seniors. But
Mhm.
again, they were great kids. They never did anything um, to show me that they weren't buying into what I was trying to do.
Mhm.
They would always do it, everything. The only thing, um, the first thing that you can tell was different between Tommy and I. The Auburn High Band was tremendous. They won the Sutler Flag 2 years before I got here. Um, Fabulous band, fabulous band. Tommy played a lot of the band classics and a lot of band transcriptions, and
Mhm.
that's really what they won the Sutler Flag on, was playing transcription. Um, and I played more band music, not just the older stuff. I would play a little bit more
Right.
modern music too, and everything. And so some of the harmonies were a little bit different now. And we were rehearsing one piece one day, and one of the trumpet players raised his hand, and he said, "Dr. Logan, can you check this note?" And it was like every 5 minutes they would raise their hand, "Can you check this note? Can you check this note?" And it was just that they weren't used to hearing some of the more
That
modern
harm. Yeah.
style
Mhm.
harmonies. So that was the first thing that I could tell that maybe it was a little bit different from what they had heard in the past. But they were willing to play anything I put in front of them. And Tommy, one of the things I said, Tommy could have destroyed me, but one of the things that he did for his regiment to help him with getting past the stroke and everything, it was just a real mild stroke, but he had to walk at least 30 minutes every day, just continuously walk for 30 minutes every
Mhm.
day. So whenever the weather was bad or it was cold, he would come to the band room and walk the band room. And my planning period was first period every day. And so he would come to the band room when the band wasn't in there and walk around and around and around the band room. for 30 straight minutes.
Wow.
Every time he'd pass the office, he'd say something to me. And so we got a lot of conversations in that way. And then he started, the further we got into that first year, the I don't know if you want to call it braver or whatever, or the more he missed it, got, started hitting him some. He would come to our jazz band period and walk.
Well,
back and forth, back and forth. And finally, it's gone on for about 2 weeks. And you could tell the kids were just going crazy. And finally, some of the seniors went up to him and said, "Mr. Goff, we love you. We love seeing you. You got to quit coming during band practice." And so he did. But it was and the parents were great. My very first band parent meeting, they were very, very welcoming to me. They knew that the school district had gone through a pretty good interview process. I'm sure Tommy had talked to them about me some, because we knew each other since I've been in this jazz band and everything. And, so, I think all the people that were involved with me being a success from that point of view was did what they should have done, and was really supportive from every point of view. There were some changes later on that I thought was better for the students, and the parents seemed to appreciate, and that kind of thing. Just different things about, if they were playing soccer, they could miss a band practice in the afternoon or something like that. Just different things that as I was about to say we more modern band directors, but golly, I'm not a modern band director. But things that we could see needed to be done to keep the kids in band. We all know that if we did what our band directors did, there would be nobody left in band. They would all leave now, just because the way the world is. But no, Tommy was extremely, extremely, extremely supportive. He didn't come to a performance for the first 2 years after I started. He said, "I'm not going to come. It needs to become your program." Yeah. And when I retired, Rob Cothran took the job over when I retired. And I told Rob that same thing. I said, "Rob, I'm not going to come to any football games or any concerts for a while." And it was probably the second year. He did a show. He invited me to come to the show. He said, "You got to come to this show next week. You got to come." And I said, "Rob, I still got a lot of kids in that band." He said, "No, it'll be fine. It'll be fine." And so what it was, he had put together a show that honored both me and Tommy.
Wow.
And he'd gone back through the library and found tunes that he knew that I really liked, and that Tommy had arranged for the band when he was in the band director, and just honored both of us. And so it was really nice, a really nice gesture from Rob to do that too. So
that's great.
Yep.
Now when you retired, you had an interesting next job.
Yeah.
Tell us about that one.
When I retired, I was getting comments from everybody. I'd just been tired. I just got tired, as we do. I told the kids when I told them I was retiring. I told them in March that I was retiring at the end of the year. And we all go through that when we retire, and we have to tell the kids and everything. And I told them there wasn't anything to do with them, not a thing. I said, you got to think, if you're a senior, you've been in marching band for 4 years. I've been in marching band for 46 straight years. And I had been, from the time I started marching band and all through college and everything. And I said, I'm just really, really tired. And I see that the marching band world especially is going in a direction that I don't know how to teach. And so from a marching band point of view, you need to get somebody in here that understands that direction. So I started getting questions from everybody. Well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I said, I got to do something. And so I finally came up with a little plan to answer that with. I said, well, there's basically 3 things I want out of a retirement job. I want to make a little bit of money just to make up a little bit of the difference between the salary that I was getting and the retirement salary, because I wasn't old enough to start drawing Social Security or anything like that.
Yeah.
It would just be straight retirement. And I want it to be, I still want to be around students, still want to be around young people, because I just love young people. And I said, and I want it to be stress-free, because, you know, our profession has a lot of stress involved. I mean, and it's a lot of it we bring on ourselves, but a lot of it is just, when do I get the ponchos out? You know, and, you know, I mean, every decision we make has some type of stress attached to it. So I wanted to make a little bit of money. I want to be around, still be around young people. I want to be stress-free. And then I, being in Auburn, I would see the Tiger Transit buses riding around all day long. And I said, I think I want to drive a Tiger Transit bus. I had my CDL already, because I got in to take a busload of band kids to District Honor Band. So I didn't have to go through the CDL stuff. So I went and applied for the Tiger Transit. So I did. I drove the Tiger Transit buses for a year right after I retired, and loved every minute of it. Just loved every minute. You know, you're going to drive that big bus around Auburn? I said, I drive in Auburn every day. I know where I'm going. And the stress about that job is, I've got to turn up there and stop over there. That's the only stress that you've got. You got to remember where to turn and where to stop. And if a kid doesn't get on the bus, you don't have to go to the mall and find them. You know,
That's right.
You don't check rolls. And there were times when former students would get on the bus and I'd be the bus driver, and they would just start laughing. And they said, this is great. And so they would sit right behind me, and we would talk the whole route. We'd catch up. Or there are times when they would say, you know, they'd see me in the little place where the buses park and let kids off, and the bus drivers are taking their break or something like that. They would see me and they say, what route are you driving now? And I'd tell them the route. And it wouldn't even be their route. They'd get on that bus and ride it with me. And then ride it all the way around the route, and then come back and get off and then go home after that. Get on the right bus.
Yeah.
And the kids, every kid that got off the bus would say thank you. Every student, every one of them that got off the bus would say thank you. And so it was a great job. I would be doing it now if I hadn't gotten a call from Huntington College and asked me if I wanted to teach a couple of music courses with them. But just, I really did enjoy it. I did, really did. It was a great job. It, you know, it paid basic minimum wage, but it was you worked 40 hours a week. You drove 40 hours a week, but there were 12-hour days. We'd start driving at 7, and then we'd get off at 7. And so I'd work 3.5 days a week, and then would be off 3.5 days. And my 3.5 days off was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, half day Monday. So I had an extended weekend every week.
Yeah.
And again, the job was great. I really did enjoy that. But then, like I said, they called me from Huntington College and said, hey, you want to come over and do a couple of adjunct classes for us? And I said, yeah, sure. So I drove to Montgomery, and I would go over there and teach some low brass classes, and, you know, like a music theory class or something like that the first year. It was just a couple of different classes that I taught. I went to Eddie Williams, who was the band director over there at that time, and said, Eddie, you've got a band. I'm a band director. Let me know if I can help. And so I started helping his band out in the afternoons. I was over there anyway. So I would just stay for band rehearsal in the afternoon and just help set drill or whatever he wanted me to do. And after the first couple of years of that, they wound up putting me on full time there at Huntington. Very small department. There were 3 full-time faculty members there, and then there were a couple of staff positions there. And so I started teaching full-time there at Huntington. And then the last 2 years, I taught there total for 7 years. And the last 2 years, I was the director of bands there. And then I, left there and thought I was going to retire. And then saw Rick Good. And Rick said, hey, we need a theory teacher. You want to teach some theory for us? And I said, yeah, sure, I'll teach some for you. And so this is my third year of teaching first and second year theory at Auburn University. And, finally teaching my doctorate. but,
And yeah.
but I tell the students first day, I said, look, I'm a band director who teaches theory.
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe I'm going to teach you what you need to know to be successful from
go.
a theory point of view for your career.
And teaching it the way that you can understand it.
That's right.
As you had been taught. Yeah.
That's right. And I do. I truly believe I do. We've all known those theory teachers who are theorists.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a band director who teaches theory, and I think the kids appreciate it. I'm hired semester to semester. I'm just an adjunct for them, and so every semester the kids will come up, hey, which theory class are you teaching next semester? And I said, well, if I'm teaching next semester, I'm going to be the second section of it. You got section 1, section 2. I said, I'll be the second section. So they want to sign up for my theory class because I think it's not easy, because theory is not easy, but I teach where they can understand it, I think. So I've really enjoyed doing that and being still around students, paying a little bit. And I know the theory stuff, it's no stress for me. So it's the perfect retirement job too. I was told by a friend of mine, we were trying to set up a board meeting. I'm on the Auburn Knights board of directors, and we were trying to set up a board meeting, and I'm going, I can't come then. I can't come then. I can't come then. And my friend Fritz Seiler said, Rusty, you have failed at retirement.
It sounds like it, yeah. But you're enjoying what you're doing. Yeah,
I'm enjoying every minute of what I'm doing. And then with the second retirement job that I'm doing at the same time as the executive director for the AMEA, which does have some stress.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it. But I've got great people that I follow Gary Taylor, who I can call any day or text any day and ask him a question, and he will instantly get back with me and say, oh, it's in this part of the Dropbox, or this is what you need to do.
Yeah, because he did it for so long.
Yeah, 17 years. I can't imagine.
And did a masterful job of it.
Yep. I was his assistant, I guess, for the last 5 years that he did it. And just knowing what I did for those 5 years as his assistant, and then knowing that Pat Stegall, what he does, Gary did it all for 10, 12, 13 years, all of it. God, when did you have time to breathe? But he did great. And Gary and I were both roommates in college for a couple of years. So we've known each other for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So great person. And, but it is at times a very stressful job. But again, I get to meet everybody that's in the association. I get to hear their stories. I get to, help them out some way. You get an email from somebody going, hey, can you explain to me how to do this and that kind of thing, because they know my name now. So they'll contact me, and so I still get to do that part of it too. So it's enjoyable. I've not regretted anything I've done since I've retired. I really have not regretted anything I've done since I started it.
Since you started band way back when. Yeah,
that's right. It's such an enjoyable music is such an enjoyable thing, and being a teacher, you're I mean, I don't think there's a better profession in the world than being a teacher, but especially being a music teacher somewhere, because you get to instill the love of music in those students who may not even hear it around the house or whatever.
And it's kids who want to be there.
That's right.
It's an elective. They don't have to sign up, but they do sign up, and they continue to sign up.
That's right.
So, I think that's a great testament to the to the teachers who are able to attract.
Yep.
Those
you see stuff all the time on Facebook about I'm losing so many students. How do I keep these students? How do I lose these students? That would have been our band directors, if they were teaching now, you have to adjust.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
have to adjust, and it's more important to keep those students in there than it is to be hard nosed about certain things and then lose them. You
Mhm.
know, our, you know, I didn't have great students. Every one of my students weren't great, but they wanted to be there, and it was more important for them to be there than not be there. So
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Rusty, thank you so much for this time together. This is fascinating. Of course, I've known you, but there was so much I didn't know. You know,
yeah,
when I heard, well, Auburn has hired this guy from Texas, I thought, well, what's somebody from Texas going to know about Auburn?
yeah,
Little do we know, you were an Alabama boy and an Auburn boy that went to Texas
yeah.
and
I was
then
a
came
Truman Welch
back.
boy.
Yeah,
You know, I
yeah.
was a Truman Welch boy. I mean, it was amazing what that man did. Amazing.
Oh yes, the directors that he has turned. And as I'm doing these interviews, there are a few names that just keep coming back again and again and again. Truman Welch is one of them. Ed Jones is one of them. Bodie Hinton is one of them. Bodie Hinton was my mother's band director at Tuscaloosa High School.
Yeah.
There are just so many of these common threads that where it just keeps coming back in interview after interview. And I think we have all been so blessed to know these people, and these people have been part of all of our lives, and you are one of those.
Well, thank you. I, I think other than my son becoming a band director, which he is, the greatest feeling I had was when the very first of my former students became a band director.
Yeah,
Then you say, okay, at least with him, I did something right. You know, something that
absolutely.
he enjoyed.
That's great. Well, Dr. Rusty Logan, Phi Beta Mu Hall of Fame. Thanks again.
Thank you, Frank.